Have you ever wanted to transform your brilliant ideas into reality or bring something original into the world, like a new product, a book, or even a company? Hi, I'm Shane, and I help people and organizations think through their toughest problems. In the last 3 months, I launched a new website, newsletter, online community, published 2 books, and made a mind mapping course. In the middle of all of this, I also got married, went on my honeymoon, hiked 100 miles around the Alps with the in-laws, while still having a social life. How did I bring all these new projects to life with all this action? My secret lies in extensive use of mind maps and Notion trackers. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I did this using MindMap Nation's launch as an example. In the process, we'll cover the 4-step framework for bringing ideas to reality, how to expand your initial ideas using a simple notebook, how to adapt inspiration from other products into your own, when to use digital mind maps to craft a blueprint for your project and launch plan, and of course, turning everything that you've mapped into actionable steps with deadlines in Notion. We have a lot to cover. Let's dive in. All right, let's go through the framework first because everything else I'm going to say is going to make a lot more sense once we have some structure around it. The framework that I'm using is called SMOO, and it stands for Stages, Maps, Ops, and Outputs. What you'll notice is that at the very high level, things go from chaos into order. And I'll note this in a little bit as we talk about mind maps. All right, let's start with the stages. Every product, every service out there started as an idea in somebody's head, right? So with that in mind, there are a few mind maps here that we're going to go through, which is the idea mind map and the design philosophy, right? And then after you have that idea, you go through a design process of refining that idea into something a little bit more concrete. You might be asking for feedback from other people, either your customers, users, or your teams, right? So to manage that process, we have the design audit mind map as well as a product outlines. The third part, so after you've gotten enough feedback and you have some kind of rough idea of what you actually wanted to bring into the world, it is the build phase. So for this, we have the product blueprints that basically are what it sounds like. You know, in a building, the blueprint is like a model of what you are actually going to build. Doesn't matter if it's going to be like a software product, a hardware product, a book, right? An organization or a community. In my case, it can be drawn up in a mind map with its different components. So we're going to go into this because a product mind map is going to make it a lot easier for you to actually build or hand it off to your team to build. Then after you build it, you're going to have to launch it. You actually have to get it into people's hands, your end users, your end readers, or what have you, right? For that, we have a logistics mind map that break out all the steps that you need to take in order to do all that promotion and whatever it is. And once you get enough information from the market, or your user group or whatever it is. For me, it was actually my application. So I sent out an application to MindMap Nation prospective members, and they actually told me what they were looking for in a MindMap community. I mapped that into a feature match mind map, which I'll also go through, which then actually help refine a lot of my product hypothesis and designs. The great thing about mind maps at this relatively chaotic stage is that, first of all, they help us break down complexity, right? Going through any of these steps would seem like a very overwhelming task if it wasn't broken down into more manageable bits. It also helps us understand the relationship between different parts. So for me, I actually had a bunch of things that needed to be launched. If I didn't understand all the interconnectedness of how they work together and who I need to get looped in, it will be a mess, right? Finally, it helps me get feedback without actually going into the build stage. So this is actually extremely important when you have the idea as well as design, because actually building and launching takes a lot of resources, physical resources, money, time, talent, whatever it is, right? In that sense, you want to get as much as you can de-risked or understood or clarified in the idea and design phases. So mind maps, because they're just a model or a visual representation of the final products, you can actually get feedback without the building components. Super useful. All right, when the ops trackers are really important in actually converting what you have mapped out, doesn't matter if it's design or launch steps, into actionable, organized steps. They also allow you to have a calendar view of essentially all your deadlines, right? which is really important, especially if you are assigning different tasks to other people or your team. Finally, it provides a lot of accountability, productivity, as well as tracking. So for the ops trackers in MyMapNation, I used the Notion Kanban board as well as the Pomodoro tracker. I've actually done separate videos for each of these, so I'll probably go into exactly how I used it rather than how I made it, because definitely check out those videos for the tutorials step-by-step guide on that one. And then we've got the outputs. Now we're going more and more towards order, right? If my maps are to manage the order, the chaos of a project, then the project trackers bring that into more of an orderly sequence, which then can be divvied up and be built into the outputs. In MyMapNation's case, the outputs or deliverables and milestones are divided along product and promotion, right? On a product, it's the website itself, then the community site on Circle, the 2 mind mapping books I wrote, which then I turned into a 7-day program for our members. Then we got the promotion, which is actually a hybrid with the newsletter, because I actually launched a newsletter with basically product updates or development updates of the community and the website, right? So that resulted in 7 emails sent out throughout the entire launch process. And then the 3 promotional videos that I made and the applications for the members. All right, let's talk about the design stage. That step number 1, right? For me, every product and service I've ever designed or built started as a humble mind map in a notebook like this. So what you see here is literally at this time, this was back in February, like 6 months ago, right? We've got like My Mapping Community as a center node. At that point, I didn't even know it was going to be called MyMapNation yet. However, the 4 basic questions that I asked myself at this point was, why should it exist? Who is it for? How should I build it? And when should I build it, right? So why should I build it? Well, I'm not the only one who actually mind maps. In fact, I now know so many of you guys do as well, and everybody has a different way of thinking, therefore a different way of mapping. There's going to be a lot of use cases that I don't know how to approach because I'm not you. Therefore, I think it'll basically very beneficial to have a way to actually share this knowledge with each other and play that connection. Who is it for? Well, it's for the people who are watching on this channel. After 2 years of being on YouTube, I know a fair amount of actually what you guys are looking for these days. And the ways that I would reach you guys is through, let's say, email, Instagram, or word of mouth, right? What I realized is that even though I knew it was still a hypothesis, I still needed to understand more about who exactly are going into the community, because it's one thing to make a YouTube channel and people watch it, another thing for people to actually get into a community, pay, spend their time and energy going through it, right? I needed to identify who I could ask, right? These are some of the folks that I met along the way. And then, what do you use my mapping for, right? And how can my maps be, improved? What do you wish you could use my mapping for? This is more of a kind of hypothetical, right? This is like, hey, if you could map anything, what do you want to use it for? So this could either be answered by me or by somebody else in the community. Have you noticed any cognitive improvements? Again, I'm trying to validate my hypothesis, right? Because I think it's really like a mental gym, but maybe it's me. Maybe I'm like the only person, right? I need to ask if anybody else has actually had these associative thinking epiphanies or second order thinking enhancements. And then, well, how would you describe mind mapping? This is a feeling question, which is like, how do you feel when you use something? This is a critical question that I don't think enough product designers, ask actually, right? People just think about specs and about benefits. But really, at the end of the day, the reason why we use something, any product, right, is either it provides utility or it makes us feel a certain way, right? So that's why I asked the question of how would you describe MyMapNation or my maps when you actually use it? For me, it's like this relief. When I get my thoughts on paper, I'm instantly less stressed, more organized, more concrete, and more clear, right? That's actually how I feel. All right, the next one is how. So how am I going to build it? I realized I have no idea how to build a community. I've ran communities before, up to 30,000 people, but I've never built one myself from scratch. So I have to ask what kind of platforms I'm going to use, right? What models? Is it going to be freemium? Is it going to be paid, subscription, what have you? I also need to learn a lot more from people who've done it before, which, I'm part of several Circle communities, for example, and I know folks who actually, built their own from scratch, including one of my friends, Kevin, who actually built up the world's biggest network and community for product managers in tech, right? So some of those questions, again, these questions mirror that of user questions. This is actually interesting because you can see how this map is actually divided, right? This is kind of like my questions for the product itself, and these are literally for the users and builder questions. This is basically a question mind map. The builder questions are, okay, who am I going to ask? What is the nature of a community, right? I always try to understand the nature of something because that's going to help me really identify the product philosophy down the line, which we're going to cover in a little bit, the purpose and the values. How do I set this up? And, how do I maintain it? How do I monetize it, right? Okay, and then finally, when am I going to do it? Well, there's the timing. Is now a good time? Is it 3 months, 6 months? What are some of the blockers? Is it dependent on my YouTube following? So back in Feb, I had 13,000 subscribers, right? I was like, hey, is this enough to actually promote this brand new community? Is it going to have enough traction? And also, I put in a timeline for myself because I'm such in the beginning stages. I like running if you've been on this channel for a while, you know that I run my life, my projects in 2 week sprints, right? So I decided to actually turn this, latter half of February, early March into a sprint just to learn, just to answer all these, different questions and validate my hypothesis. I also put here immediate next steps, which is like schedule calls, research community, best practices, and schedule builder calls. I eventually moved onto a digital map because what it allows me to do is really expand my thoughts, right? That paper map was actually really good as a starting point, just get some fluid ideas down. But man, you need essentially a digital map in order to really get into the nitty gritty of things, especially what I realized was that I actually needed 2 products. It's both a website as well as a community site. And then the more information that I gather from people, the more my mind map grew. And it suddenly, it gradually outgrew my ability to just jot that down in paper. So I would say move to digital when you feel like you're bursting at the seams with information, right? So in my sense, basically this digital design philosophy map covers some of the same things as the idea map, which is purpose, and also what is the reason why we have a design philosophy map is to identify why this product exists, right? As well as to do some, preliminary design audits, which is, researching comparable things to your product, be it, another community, another website, another product, or another, comparable author or book, right? These are all the kind of smart things to do before you go down the rabbit hole of building a product. So in my case, and I covered this actually pretty extensively in the website where I talk about, designing actually my Silver and Steel website. So definitely check that out. All right, so for MindMap Nation, at the time, I didn't even know it was going to call that yet. This was actually additive. Here's the other thing is, this started as a pretty simple map. I started adding to it as more information came in. That's a cool thing with mind maps, which is you can start something, and then as you learn more things, it's additive, right? So I can come back to this mind map even in 6 months. Let's say I got involved with a lot of other things for 6 months. I come back here and I immediately know the structure of my thought at that point in time. That's extremely powerful, especially when we have a lot of competing projects and interests. So in my case, MindMap Nation exists for these reasons, right? It's for MindMap practitioners. It's everything that I've already identified. However, I went one step further and actually asked myself, who is this person who's going to join, right? Who is it for? Well, and I was like, okay, this eventually became the MindMap Nation manifesto. It's for those who unflinchingly look chaos in the eye. Right? And it keeps on going. I went pretty nuts with this. It was a very colorful exercise. Build or concretely bring out who exactly my audience is. And then here's the packed with my community, right? It's like, what do they get out of, what do they expect to contribute, and what do they get out in return, get back in return? What's my promise as their community leader, right? These are my commitments on a daily level, responding to people, weekly level, holding events and socials, monthly level, doing AMAs, as well as, let's say, programs like the 7-Day Mind Map Challenge. Why me? Well, we should always ask ourselves this, right? Why are we uniquely suited to actually bring this thing to life? Well, I've been mapping for 13 years through a wide range of different scenarios and career things, personal things, as well as having an online presence now, right? I actually have a network of folks and an audience that I can actually now play as a connector and bring folks together. I've also run a lot of meetups before, conferences. I've won awards for it, so I know how to manage essentially events, right? The community part, setting it up is new, but managing it is something that I've actually have experience with. And then people, okay. How often do people, connect? This is literally, it's like, how do I expect people to actually interact with my product or service, right? We got to answer that question. And what I realized is that this is where I gather a lot of those questions and interviews, right, with prospective users. So a lot of the feedback was actually very good. Many of them were going like, hey, we were wondering when you were going to actually make something like this. So all very, very positive things. All right, we're going to go down to design audit. So I actually do my mind maps, clockwise, right? That's why I'm going in this direction. Design audit. This is something from UX research, because I used to be a product designer as well as a product manager. I've built a lot of apps before. A design audit means that you go into products that are similar to yours, not exactly the same and stuff like that, but those that either inspire you with their design or their flow. So for me, Nest Labs actually created was a really, really good jumping off point, because I loved what they did essentially with their community as well as their website, which is a house for their content, right? And I mapped out this whole kind of like flow, how people just go in, pay, access the member dashboard, access the community page, and then go into Circle and interact with each other, right? I love that flow. And then I also am part of Ali Abdaal's part-time YouTube Academy, which is kind of a ghost town these days. However, the organization of it is awesome. Let me just show you what it looks like. I actually took some inspiration from this community as well. Community wins. Okay, what I loved about the PTYA community is that they actually had a community wins channel here, and I'm a big believer in actually sharing our wins in order to develop a winning mindset. This is super important with anything that we're growing in, right? And part of it is actually appreciating our progression and sharing it with other people and holding each other accountable. So I really, really loved what they did here, and I actually put it over into our community wins also. Yep. And then Farnham Street, you guys might be familiar with Shane Parrish's site, which is the home for a lot of mental models and stuff like that. I really like his content site. Let's see if I can show you Farnham Street. The way he organized all of the different types of articles is awesome. I also joined his community, and I did a design audit around that. Unfortunately, it was a very old school kind of style, and it just reminded me of like forums and very static and stuff like that. So I decided to be more like Nest Labs rather than Farnham Street. And then finally, there is my friend Sini, who wrote a book about digital dependency, how I should say, and I really liked the way that he gave away, parts of his book and stuff like that to get emails as well as the website design. So again, these are just like screenshots of things that I took, almost kind of like a vibe board of sorts, right? To remind myself, hey, once I do start designing this product, what would I like it to actually look concretely? Super helpful to have that. And then we got monetization, right? This is super important because, sustainability. We want to help people, but at the same time, we also need to feed ourselves. So in that sense, I identified it as a paid membership. At the time, I actually didn't know it was going to be $15 a month for $120 a year, right? It was just monthly and annual, but then eventually I filled this up. And then we got promotion. How will people actually find out about, this community once I'm ready to launch it? Well, definitely YouTube, right? Twitter didn't use so much eventually down the line. who will spread the word: users, workshop hosts, and article writers. I have no idea what article writers is because I never engaged them. Platform. So this is like, into the how we're going to build it. I was like, okay, so maybe we'll just run it on Circle, the community platform, and then do all our office hours and meetups and stuff like that over Zoom, which is exactly what we do today. All right. So this is the design mind map that literally just like, it's a crazy robust version of the OG notebook mind map. Now I believe we are ready to move on to the design phase. So at the end of the idea phase, what you should feel like is that you have validated your hypothesis, at least, right? Your idea. By actually talking to people, by actually researching, by doing design audits and answering fundamental questions of why you should do it, and why you're the right person to do it, and how you should go about it. Now we're ready to go into some of the heavier stuff, like the actual design audit, right? As well as the product outlines. So this phase is all about bringing it closer to reality. So the website outline, let's expand that. This is where I was like, okay, what is the purpose of the MyMap Nation website, right? Well, it's probably going to sit here as kind of like the content home for all the articles and videos that I write. It's also a landing page or an entry point for the community itself. Since I'm not building it onto the website, people actually have to be able to find a door to it. And then we have, let's say, field guides, potentially, the tech stack. Here it is. So this is actually all in, together, like, website hosting, newsletter stuff, the community site. What this is just like how much is my base cost, right? So all in, after doing a ton of different research and around pricing and benefits and stuff, it came down to about $150 to $200 a month to keep everything going. Newsletter, I had a question. I still didn't know if I was going to rely on Silver and Steel's newsletter mailing list or start a new one for MyMap Nation, right? And then promotions, timing. I had a few things coming on, like workshops and podcasts scheduled that I wanted to promote. So moving on to the actual design audit. Man, so remember how I said that some of the inspirations were Nest Labs, PTYA, and Farnham Street? Well, I basically dissected the crap out of them here, because once you actually start building, it's a very different mindset when you start designing and building, right? It's different than if you're just a user or consumer. If you're a user and consumer, you can just you're doing like a YouTube review. You don't need to actually be engineer minded. You don't need to actually know the full breakdown. However, since I'm building it, I basically went into PTYA's site, and when I was like, okay, hey, on their website they got a lot of testimonials. I think that's actually very compelling. Maybe I should have some for my own site. And then I went to their Circle site, right? Which, let's go back here. I literally did a full breakdown of every single category, the way that they separated out, like the welcome, right? The welcome tab, the community tab, the bonus materials, the cohort, and archive stuff, and finally community stuff, right? So what I did was, these are like the major nodes of a mind map. That's the great thing about mind maps, is that you can actually reproduce the entire product in these nodes. This is exactly what it looks like, and I'm expanding it out. You got community wins, events announcements, introduce yourself suggestions. Check this out. Literally the same thing, mapped, one-to-one, right? This really helps, a designer really understand how to reverse engineer something, right? Because once you're ready to build, you're gonna have to have this level of detail to either do it yourself or hand it off to your team. And like I said, I really liked Farnham Street's website, but their community was kind of lackluster, so I kind of ignored that. And then Nest Labs is where I did the most dissection, because I was like, wow, they did such a good job, the founder of Nest Labs, with managing her community. That's why they have like 2,000 people, right? And it's like, yeah, well, their thing is pretty basic here on the community site. And then what I did is I went through all their productivity, all their different, let me just show you here. So basically I went through all of these like different support groups and different channels and stuff like that, and took a look at the types of different topics, and the number of posts, right, to identify which ones are the most popular, to understand like what are people actually thinking about, talking about. For example, some of the challenges. I really like the way that they broke out these. Actually, they don't have challenges anymore. I think they just went through a redesign and took it out. But that's actually one of the things I really, really liked about Nest Labs initially. And finally, support groups, right? I don't think MyMapNation is big enough for these like user-generated support groups yet, or community member setup groups yet, just because we're pretty small, right? We rather have like concentrated conversations in some of these houses, which I'll get into in a little bit. Anyways, all the design audit does is to give you almost kind of like a mini blueprint of what's to come, because once you're ready to actually go into the build phase, you're going to need something much more robust like this, right? So the design audit is reverse engineering a comparable product. Then your design blueprint, your product blueprint, is actually what you're going to build off of, right? What you're going to engineer. If you have been finding this video helpful so far or been enjoying it, please consider hitting that like or subscribe button, because it does help me out a lot. All right, let's get back into it. So now that we're moving into the build phase, it's going to start straddling both mind maps as well as ops trackers, right? Because we're about to turn everything that we map into concrete steps. However, before we go into Notion, this is the design, this is the product blueprint for MyMapNation, the website. Without getting into too much detail, what I'm doing here is literally mapping out all the different components, right? Everything I map out here is going to be turned into the final product in this almost exact configuration. Not exact, but it's like it mirrors the actual product. So for example, website, right? These represent the different pages of them, of the site. So home, for example, if we go into MyMapNation's home, yep, here's the home page. We have launch update. We have start here, topics, membership. That's the navigation. Well, you got navigation, right? Back then it was explore, newsletter, members, login. I even have the flow. It's like, what happens if people log in and stuff. Obviously that has changed now. Next is mission statement. Let's see. I just do it side by side. I think it'll be really cool to kind of see it right there. Okay, cool. All right, so we have navigation, mission statement, newsletter sign up, Steve Jobs quote, testimonials, which I kind of moved it around a little bit, newsletter sign up, call to action for Circle, and pricing, of course, right? And incentive for Circle, basically the MyMapNation's books and programs. So as you can see, this MyMap exactly mirrors pretty much everything on the site. And the same thing goes for the articles, right? I have like, for example, structured thinking, intentional productivity, And then not only that, it's like, okay, well, what are these for? Right? What are these categories and articles for? I wrote a whole description saying, hey, structured thinking is for frameworks, thinking. These are the type of articles that's going to go into it, right? So let's just click through to structured thinking. All right. So as you can see, we've got the title, right? And then we have the description as well as the type of articles that go into here. This is super cool because in my mind, I'm actually mapping out the final product. So once I actually get into the build phase, it's super easy. Since this is literally a blueprint that you just follow, right? And it's way cheaper to map something out than to build this in its final form. So plus, in this early stage, I'm able to just get feedback on everything that I'm mapping without having to build anything. Again, if you're working as part of a team or stakeholders or want to get users' feedback, this is perfect. What you'll also notice is that I have a bunch of arrows going around, right? It's just like these tell me the connections between the different products. So for example, if I were to create a mind mapping program or the books, right, they would serve essentially as incentives for people to sign up for the community, right? That's why I have an arrow here. Or for example, we've got another one. What's another example? Integration. Okay, well, integration, because this is actually the website, not the community itself. The community itself is actually hosted by another platform called Circle. I have an integration into the MyMap community itself, right? Let's get into this in a little bit. That's a monster. So what you'll also notice is that I have a bunch of stuff in red. These are the features or parts of the map that I decided to actually take out or never build, right? So for example, I initially wanted to have like this membership dashboard that let people just access certain attributes and benefits of the community, but I realized that I can host all of this actually in the community site itself. So why would I need a redundant feature that just overcomplicates things, right? So what I did was I actually drew a box around this entire frame or node and went and colored it red to tell myself that, hey, we don't need this at all, or tell my team members. All right, let's get into the MyMap Nation's community blueprint. This is where it gets pretty interesting too, right? So here we have community. These are the different major categories of channels in the community. So we have, let's see, it's far easier to just show you this. This used to be called community because that's what pretty much every other, circle community calls themselves. I gotta have a community count at this point. I'm tired of saying community.
Stop it. Get some help.
But I decided to name it Town Square since it's actually more interesting. And it's also kind of representative of when people gather together to actually, share and gather for events. So you can see here all the different major channels of introduce yourself, community wins, events, announcements, suggestions box, and documentation, all reflected here. Documentation, I renamed it to handbook just because it's more fun. We've got the channels, which I eventually renamed as houses. These are the discussion channels of MyMap Nation, right? Originally, I had actually mapped these to the article structure of the website. However, I also changed that up. But anyways, this is essentially, a one-to-one mapping of everything that I was actually going to put onto the site. Because later, when I'm ready to put all these tasks into Notion, it'll be a lot easier for me to just review this map and then put them into Notion cards to execute off of, which I will cover in a little bit after I cover the launch logistics map. Because both the blueprint as well as the logistics map items actually go into the Notion tracker. So let's cover this really quick, right? So for launching MyMap Nation, both the website and the community, I need email. So this is where I decided to actually do like a Kickstarter campaign style type of updates where every week I will share, how I'm building, how the progress is going along so that I'm taking my audience along with me in the journey rather than just having like a grand reveal or grand opening, right? I actually really believe in transparency and holding myself accountable to my own milestones. That's why I did it in that way. So in this way, I'm sharing a lot of the kind of like the build stuff, the different like pieces that's coming together into the MyMap Nation structure or kind of community, right? Which then, if you have signed up for my email list, this is basically what's up, right? This is the launch updates page, which my first one went out on July 19th, right? Update number 1. So over the course of 7 weeks or so, this is everything came together piece by piece every single week, sent out by the email as well as on the updates website. And then we got video promotion. So at this point, I had grown to 17,000 subscribers, and I decided to make a series of 3 video updates. Since I'm a freaking YouTuber, I should be able to turn some of my email stuff into actual videos to make it more fun to watch. And then there's a membership application. Since MyMap Nation is still by application only, everybody go through a selection process. Nobody gets turned away unreasonably, of course, but this is just a way to actually gauge how serious you are in terms of self-development as well as growing your mind mapping skills, right? So I basically put all the different kind of questions that I want to have in my survey, which eventually actually did turn into the survey itself. Let me see if I can show you. No, forms. Yep. I mean, talk about the outputs, right? So, one-to-one, again, just like how you can create a website, you can create Google Forms and My Maps as well, right? At least a draft of them, the first draft. And then we have circle community, populate pages. That's going to be one of the steps that I have to do. Tutorials to watch. There was a whole bunch of YouTube videos that I want to watch around how to build a community, become a new community member, leader, right? So there's that. And then we've got website stuff, which is, do I want tutorials? There's populating, there's migrating stuff from Silver and Steel's website, which is my first ever silverandsteel.org. I have written a whole bunch of different articles here that I eventually migrated over to MyMap Nation. So that was going to be a task in itself. So now that we've mapped out everything that is going to go into our product, as well as the steps that we're going to take to actually launch it, we have to go into the ops trackers because just having a map is really hard to execute on. Just imagine you're going to have to go through all of these and try to check off the boxes. Where do you even put the timelines? I mean, of course you can put deadlines and stuff. iThoughtsX, which is the software I'm using, does allow that, but it's very cumbersome. Plus, if you are going to be working as part of a team, like you can't really expect everybody to understand your map because, often it's kind of for yourself, right? So it's a lot more efficient if we go into something like a Kanban board that I created here. Now, I actually went into how to make something like this in Notion in one of my previous videos, how I track medium-term goals, so I would definitely suggest watching that for the full tutorial. But what I'm showing you here is actually a few things, right? What I did was I actually took screenshots or made copies of different stages of my development. So I had made this on 7/26, right? So July 26th. This was actually 2 days before my wedding, which meant that I knew I was going to be gone for like a week or so, right? If I come back, I don't want to look at a mind map and try to figure out my next steps. I want my current self to set my future self to win. So I actually designed and built this Notion tracker so that it turns everything that I need to do from this mind map into actionable concrete steps with each card, right? And what you'll see here is that I have the ideas, not started, in progress, and done. These are the different stages that will move the cards across as I am, finishing up with them, right? The other thing you'll notice is that, right now I have a total task card count. There's 32 tasks that I had identified on July 26th that needs to be done before MyMap Nation, the website, as well as the community goes live. So the only thing that I had finished at that point was the July 19th newsletter reveal, which I think I showed you earlier. And then within each of the cards, what I've got are these different criterias, right? I have the status, which is already noted here, and then the area. There's five different key areas that need to go simultaneously in order for me to actually launch this thing, right? There is the email promotion stuff. There is the website itself, the mymapnation.com. There is video promotion stuff for YouTube. Not only that, I was still keeping up with my regular YouTube content, which is pretty nuts. I basically made like 9 videos in 1.5 months. And then the community sites on Circle, and then miscellaneous other things, right? But super important at a glance to know, like, hey, what is up this week from which area at a glance. The next one is the deadline, right? Obviously, this is the reason why I'm using Notion, so I can keep track of when I need to do things. Priority, so high priority, low priority, medium priority, right? Different ones. Impact, I barely use this, but sometimes I put this just to remind myself, hey, if this is a low complexity task, but it's going to be high impact, then maybe I should just prioritize that. Maybe it's high priority, right? And then cadence. I started using this later, so I'll go into this later, right? But in each card, I can actually write a certain description of, let me see if I have anything around here. Most of these are actually not populated because I kind of understand what the task is going to be. But sometimes I'll actually make a few notes and stuff like that. You'll actually see more notes as I go on because right now, at this stage on July 26th, I didn't have time to actually populate every single card with all the minute steps because each of these is like basically their own project, right? Their own task. I just put the title here with the different categorizations so that I can come back here and start really hit the ground running, because I knew on July 26th that I wanted to launch My Map Nation around mid-September, which would be, a month and a half, right? It was going to be crunch time as soon as I got back from my honeymoon. Let's see. The other cool thing here I'm going to note is that I actually filtered. You can do a sort. You can do a sort by deadline, which is exactly what I did, right? So this way, you'll see this kind of like, descending cascade of different things that I need to do by the time that everything launches. And then the other thing is that once you have, you can also put a new view, for example, view options, right? Which is super cool. Right now it's on the calendar, but you can also have a calendar. Right now it's on a board view, but you can also have a calendar view. What that means is, boom, let's see if, right now, that's why we're in October. All right, let's go back into September and August. Yeah, so when this board was made, because I had the calendar view, I can now see all of your tasks are now shown in this calendar view, right? At a glance, I can go, wow, some tasks need to be done within a certain week. Plus, on top of that, if I filter based on, let's say, video as well as email, right? Because these are my main promotion channels, that means at a glance, I can see my promotional or marketing schedule, right? This means that, within this week of August 10th, I need to have all my newsletters done. There's going to be a newsletter every single week that goes out. And then right afterwards, hopefully I can have a YouTube video that goes out as well. And then every Saturday, taking advantage of my Sunday uploads, I'm going to have all of the different updates. So at this point, I had, a lot of things planned. I didn't fully execute on all of these because I found it was kind of redundant down the line, but super helpful to actually have it in this particular view, right? Okay, let's move on to the second shot, which was 8/6. Because by this time I had, this is immediately after I came back from my honeymoon. I got married on the 29th. I came back on like 8/5 or something like that. So this was going to start. And already you can see that I added more cards. The last one had like 32. Now I added 8 more cards. And this is like, this is natural as we go through the progression of a project. New steps, new unknowns, new things will come up, right? We just capture it in this Notion tracker and then off we go. And you can see here that at this point I have finished a bunch of stuff. I had finished everything that I wanted to the prior week, like the newsletters, updates, the website stuff. I had published 2 more YouTube stuff, like the True Power of My Maps, as well as update number 1. On top of that, I also added a new column, right? And this is super useful if you have like a new category of tasks come up as well. So for me, it was reminders. This is where, for example, if I need to respond to other communities to, promote what I'm doing or review My Map Nation applications, right? And this is where the cadence really comes in, because these are ongoing projects. They're not like anything with necessary deadline, right? So it's good to have just like, hey, check this on a weekly basis at least. All right, and at this point, 8/6, these are the tasks. Again, I only put the tasks that I am working on this week in progress, right? Otherwise, you can get really stressed out with trying to be pretty overwhelming, and then max it'll be 2 weeks, right? Because I'm actually running this on sprints, which I'll get into a bit. So I have 8/7 all the way to 8/13. So this kind of represents like at least this week what I'm up to. If I can drag all these things into done, this week is an awesome win. It's a home run, right? That means I'm on track with the launch. All right, so 8/22. This is like another 2 weeks goes by. The card count is now up to 42. We have a bunch of other, more things that's over here. Done is now at 18, whereas before I think it was like 9 or something. I have another set of things in progress that I'm currently working on. As you can see, the nature of things is also, changing, right? Whereas previous weeks was really focused around like the promotion stuff, getting the word out, getting email started, as well as the website. So a lot of website stuff were already finished. At this point, as we go closer and closer towards launch, it's less about the website, more about the community, right? Now I'm like, okay, I'm looking at integration. I'm looking at how do I set up like the events page in Circle. And then, of course, continuing pushing hard on all of the YouTube and the email promotions. And now started 9. Ah, man, it's getting close, right? All right. So 9.6. This is the eve of launch, because even though MyMapLation officially launched, I think on the 13th or something of September, this was when I started, when I actually opened the doors of the community to everybody on 9.7. So at this point, gosh, it's gone up to 56. So within 1 week, we had 10 more tasks to tackle. But look at the done, right? The done is out at 38. This thing is ready to go. In progress, well, it's just planning off the kickoff meeting for the following Monday. Then not started. This stuff is okay. This is like, launching the first actual newsletter rather than launch updates. And a bunch of YouTube videos that I'm going to be releasing over time. So nothing like super, super high priority. Like, this is what you want to see at the end of your project, closer launch, right? Which is that you have moved pretty much all of your not started things, through in progress, week over week, into done. Sometimes you might also have like scrapped, which I kind of keep in track of, because in case if they become relevant sometime in the future, I'll be able to capture that. The other thing you'll notice is I've got ideas and roadmap, right? Because now that I'm about to launch, afterwards in the future, there could be other things I want to add to the product over time. So this is where I can capture some of that information. All right, so the ops trackers, the Notion Kanban board, by far it takes the meat of or the brunt of all the organization steps that you can divvy out for yourself or for your team. And then the Pomodoro tracker is something that more of a kind of like a focus tool that I love using, right? I run all my sprints actually using the Pomodoro technique. So let's take a look at this. I have a previous video that shows you exactly how I use this and how I built this. So I'm gonna gloss over it a little bit, right? So what I'll do is I'll show you how I kept track of all of my stuff. If you're not familiar with Pomodoros, it's basically a productivity system where you do 25 minutes of productive work with 5 minutes of break. I divvy up my entire workday and sometimes even run my life using Pomodoros, funny enough. And what it helps me do, especially with the launch, is keeps me really focused and tracking, how much time I'm spending on a particular task, right? So every morning I make like a to-do mind map with all the different tasks of the day. And then what I do is I input all the different tasks into the daily tracker, right? So here you can see MMN, which stands for MyMap Nation, right? On August 22nd, I had to set up like the domain paywall stuff, acceptance emails, all that things. And then these are the number of Pomodoros or 30-minute, incrementals or intervals that I wanted to dedicate to each one, right? So this is literally how I kept focused throughout the entire launch. Definitely check out that video if you're interested in this focus and productivity system. All right, let's go back into here. I realized that I had skipped over one of the mind maps, which is the feature match, right? So as I mentioned, I had an application survey for MyMap Nation. And one of the great things was that, there were 2 questions in there, which was, what are you currently mind mapping? What would you like it for? And what would you like to get out of this community, right? These 2 questions are really, phrased in a way that tells me what people are looking for in a MyMap community, which is awesome, because what I did was I went through, the 70 or so applications one by one and teased out all of the insights, everything that people have told me, like for example, what would you like to get out of this community, right? Learn to think deeply, connect with people outside of my bubble, better myself, my business, self-development, learn to communicate better, right? And then what do you use mind mapping for? Well, I've got brainstorming with my team, new projects, analyze issues and risks, plan travel, book writing, bringing abstract into concrete clarity and reality. And then I asked myself, okay, would MyMap Nation, my product, the community, serve all of these different needs, right? And I went through and I tried matching all of these into the different features of the community, because we have channels of discussion, we have challenges, we have the books, we have like the town square, the live events, for example, the introductions and the library. So for example, what we've got here is, okay, connect with deep thinkers outside my bubble. Well, intros as well as live events are going to be the one to go, right? All this is saying is that every single one of these hopefully should map to something that is a feature within my product. This tells me that what I've built can actually meet the expectations of my customers or my users. Not only that is, this made me think. I was like, oh, okay, the channels. I had a whole discussion with Brian and Olivia over this. I was like, hey, what should I name the channels? Like, what kind of topics should they actually, what kind of topics, discussion topics will take place there? So what we ended up happening was, hey, we just reimagined. We actually just started imagining the type of person that would go into these channels, which eventually turned these from just like vague words into actual people or fun names of personas, right? And then renaming them as houses for people to actually join and converse, Harry Potter style. Anyways, this is just a really fun exercise that, super useful, because if you're actually launching something, you want to make sure that you're going to be able to actually meet the demands of who you're serving at the end of the day. All right, finally, we are at the outputs. As I mentioned, all these steps, all these crazy amount of, planning and stuff over the last couple months has been leading up to just launching the website, the community page, the books, the newsletters, the videos, and the application. At this point, what you're left with is something that you have brought from your mind into reality, that people are now reading, that people are now engaging with and going through, right? And then taking your program. This is like one of the coolest things as a creator, is that you're bringing, chaos into order. Not only that, but also bringing value into the world. And it all started as a humble idea that, came out of nowhere, or some kind of inspiration. All right, guys, hopefully that gives you a sense of how much thought and intention that goes into producing a new product, right? And it's very easy to just, put something out there and see what sticks. But what I like to always ask is, why are we doing it? What is the purpose? Why are we the right people to bring it about? Every product out there, every service out there started as a brilliant idea. Hopefully you're able to take parts of this framework and apply it into your own life. And if you're ready to take your mind mapping to the next level, then please consider signing up for my newsletter, or better yet, check out our community. All right, guys, as always, thank you so much for supporting me and watching. Until next time, take care.